All right, man, we're live. This is actually episode 10.5 because apparently something happened with episode 10 and we couldn't get it to work. There was no broadcast button. The Sultan of Snake Oil still can't join, but I don't know if it's because that fucker can't use email. I don't know what the hell's going on. Friday morning. What's up? I don't even know what to say, man.
Well, by co-host Ninja, the real Jay Pittman, I'm Dan Ford. This is episode 10 and a half. It's only taken us 20 minutes to figure out how to get online today for some reason. The Sultan of Snake Oil has probably been sniffing too much snake oil today. Not only is he saying he's sick, but he can't seem to log on to Google Hangouts for some unknown reason.
Yeah, man, I've sent the invite to 2 different fucking Gmail addresses.
Yeah. Don't know what to say.
What the fuck is that?
It's the phone in the hotel room here. Where
you at?
Let me answer that. New York.
Yeah, get it, man. What the fuck? Listen, people, no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you think the technology's easy, weird stuff happens sometimes. Oh my God.
So he claims he's not the one to be at fault.
Of course
he can
not.
Windows 10. He can Windows 10 better than us. Hey,
is that supposed to be a good thing? I don't
know if that's a good thing or not. I just know that I'm not the one sending out the invites or the one receiving it. I got my invite.
Well, clearly it works. Clearly I know how to send it because you got it, and clearly it's able to be accepted because you're fucking in this room. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe a coyote chewed through his fucking internet line. Could be. Isn't that fucker like in New Mexico or Arizona or some shit?
Yeah, he's in Tucson. Arizona, or somewhere around there. Some place in the middle of the fucking desert.
Man, when I was driving across the country one time, when I was going to live in Maryland, we stopped in New Mexico at some Cracker Barrel or something, dude. I don't know. And man, it's like on a reservation, right? And you know how I am. I'm looking around and I whisper to Mrs. Pittman, I know how Custer felt. And at the time, man, I was growing that giant beard. And the waiter comes up and he must have overheard me because he was behind me. He's like, that's all right. I know how the people on the plane felt.
I'm not even going there, man. Not even going there with that.
What are you going to do? Hey, the guy had a sense of humor. All right, man. You want to talk about AI? This fucker ain't making it.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get to the 5 minutes of snake oil at some point with the Sultan of Snake Oil, Shadow DXS. He's going to figure out how to use Google Hangouts today sometime.
Maybe that giant tinfoil turban is fucking blocking the signal.
It could be. He's going to keep... if an animal chewed through, how's he watching your fuzzy face? He's still waiting for his invite. Can you post the invite to him in a DM? Can you do it as a link and then he can click on the link?
Yeah, let me see. What the fuck? Jesus Christ, man. Listen, man.
Yeah, so
my quarter's done, right? At Cal Poly. So right. I finished all my grading last night, whatever. That's why I have an appointment in an isolation chamber today, because I'm going to go into total darkness, total silence, and just meditate and try to get this shit away from me, man.
With how much of a cookie are we talking about here?
0, man. That's danger close for that, dude.
Danger close?
Yeah. Oh, and hey, by the way, for the record, I don't grow any.
Who said you grow it?
Apparently you did to somebody.
I never remember saying that you grow it, but
yeah, well, I don't.
You get all your stuff through legal means.
Well, if you have a recommendation in California, you can grow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that requires work.
It's true. You are. So, all right. So, yeah, AI. I guess with the game that just recently occurred.
AlphaGo.
Yeah, AlphaGo. We've got some, some more, it's, I guess I'd say some rejuvenated talks regarding around AI, where I don't really know that I consider AlphaGo to be AI. I mean, that's more machine learning. I mean, it's a step maybe in the right direction because this is not chess. It's not just a calculated game where it's all based on specific math. I mean, everything is in a way, one way, shape, or form, math related. But this was quite a bit different than just math. I mean, they feel that they were ahead of where they should be at this point in time. They weren't expecting to be able to beat anyone of significance. What did they say, for like another 5 years?
5 to 10 years, man. Well, Go's a game because of its complexity, where there is no like computer-based trainer for it like there is for chess. Chess computers have been around for quite some time, and they're quite good. I mean, they're nowhere near as good as a master or a grandmaster, but they're good. There is no such thing for Go because of its complexity. And for this thing to come out, and the reports I read of the analysis, and I'm not a Go player. I understand the rules like in a very, very rudimentary, basic level. I don't think I could fucking beat myself. But apparently, at least in the first 2 matches, man, let me back up. I agree. It's certainly not what's called an AGI, an artificial general intelligence. That's when we're talking about. Right. But it's a subclass of AI. As a machine learning algorithm, as an instance of AI, to win apparently on moves 7 and 14 respectively in games 1 and 2. I mean, that's like pretty early on in the game, right? And that tells you how far out that game branches based on early strategy and positioning. That's pretty significant, dude. That's pretty significant. I saw somebody reported, I didn't see where Elon Musk said this, but somebody reported that he said it. So, right, keep that in context. That in his mind, that leaps AI forward a decade. Now, does it? I don't know, because I don't know where it's at. DeepMind is a company.
That's been kind of some of the challenges overall with artificial intelligence. They started off doing this stuff like in the 1950s, right? They were claiming that at that particular point that by 1970 they would already be doing a lot of things that the rudimentary tasks that humans were doing. Every time we've made a prediction when it came to artificial intelligence, they've all been wrong. Which tends to make me believe at this particular point,
Hello.
Why do we keep predicting?
This motherfucker finally made it.
Look at that.
Oh my God.
That is awesome. Hey.
Took me a while. Sorry about that.
Look at that. Look at that. The Sultan of Snake Oil has joined us. It looks grace us with his presence.
It looks like somebody took a gold bra, wrapped it around Dolly Parton's tits, and stuck it on his head.
What kills me, this is actually a fortune teller turban thing, and I'm trying to pose as the Sultan of Snake Oil, so it still fits. I'm still a charlatan no matter how I look at this.
This is true. Well, you may not necessarily be the charlatan. However, the products in which you're reviewing tend to get to that point. So I guess we can, because Death Star needs to get, an oil change of some type. He's got to get over to the doctor.
Yeah. After this, I've got to make it over to the hospital.
we could break away, get to our 5 minutes of snake oil with the Sultan of Snake Oil, Shadow DXS. You can hit him up on Twitter. You can hashtag the number 5 minute of snake oil, and we'll review a product for you. Tell you what we think. So to recap real quick, last week we took a look at the antivirus software ESET on Mac, and from a Mac perspective, it didn't do anything that it claimed to do. So this week, the Sultan of Snake Oil is here to tell us about ESET on Windows. So, Sultan, did you test this on Windows 7, 8, 10?
I tested this on Windows 7 as well as Windows 10. I chose to opt out of Windows 8.1 because I didn't want to have a brain aneurysm. So, now, before I get started into my review on this, I want to make this perfectly clear. When it comes to antivirus and anti-malware software for Windows versus OS 10, it's a lot easier to defend against a huge amount of shit for Windows as opposed to OS 10. For whatever reason, the market for antivirus in OS 10 is just not up to speed when it comes to the popularity of Windows. With that said, ESET is night and day when it comes to Windows versus its Mac counterpart.
And we've never seen anything like that before.
Well, it actually is able to defend against a lot of things. It's not flawless, and by no means is it going to be your end-all, be-all to defending you and your family against whatever attacks. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to suggest this for enterprise purposes, but if this is just your family computer or whatever, it will be able to defend against a broad variety of attacks. However, it's child protective services that it offers. The little lockouts for your parental units. It's still able to be bypassed pretty easily without a lot of effort, not a lot of know-how. Like I said, in the Mac version, you could still use the Google Translate bypass to use as a makeshift proxy on Google's end. There's other services that you can do as well, and it's...
Did it enable the Google Safe Search?
No, it didn't enable... If you chose to completely block out search engines altogether, you were not able to access Google by itself. However, if you use the Google Translate, by default, Safe Search is already pre-enabled when you're not signed into an account. So if you were just at the public library, you didn't sign into Google, and you were just as a default user trying to look up hot chicks or whatever, you were probably going to get a picture of baby chickens. So with that in mind, you can still enable or disable Safe Search and easily gain access to whatever it is that you want. However, there is something I do want to note that when it comes to antivirus, especially in Windows, there's two ways that it can be really bad. One, unable to perform as far as what it claims that it can in order to protect you. Two is going out of its way to look at everything as a potential threat. Meaning when you plug in a USB device or any type of media that you have on there, it will generate false positives and claim that your media is riddled with viruses and we need to format it without your permission, which ESET does possess the ability to do that once you actually allow it to log in or you give it administrative privileges. So the trick is to find that sweet spot between being able to protect you and not hinder your ability to do whatever it is that you, the user, choose to do.
So did I hear you say that we had to give ESET administrative privileges to the system?
Yes.
So in order for ESET to properly do everything, it has to have complete control over the system.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
It doesn't run as its own little separate entity. It requires Windows to acknowledge that an administrator uses that product, and you have to be the one to set it up, and then you have to grant it permission to act on all users on the account.
You know, how in 2016 have we not gotten past that bullshit yet?
That's a really good question.
In fact, right, there was a lot of nice things that came out when UAC in Windows was introduced. I mean, at least now we don't run as admin by default with our accounts, right? But you still have to disable antivirus to install shit. You still have to run things as admin so that they run properly. How have we not figured out protected memory spacing and booting into trusted modes? I mean, all binaries are signed in Windows now, right? And you get those warnings by default in macOS too, right? You get them by default because the keys are recognized or they're not.
Well, in OS 10, we actually in El Capitan, we have that rootless environment that completely disables root altogether. You have to go into recovery and actually manually enable a rootable environment, a root accessible environment. Excuse me.
Right. Which is much closer to a trusted environment. But yeah, that just blows my mind that a piece of software that can make such systemic changes, and it can only do it, and this goes back to our original AV conversations episodes ago, it can only do it through two means, either deductively, where it's going to figure out this is true, this is true, this is true, here's the conclusion, or inductively, right? This is true, and here's the reasons why. And we know those models don't work anymore. I mean, they haven't worked in decades, or at least reliably. And we're going to give this thing systemic level access and let it do whatever it wants? No. What?
Well, yeah, and we've essentially increased our attack surface because now I don't have to find a direct exploit on Windows. I can go after the antivirus companies, anti-malware companies, whatever you want to call it, which is what we saw happen with Kaspersky basically not too long ago, right? We compromised Kaspersky and we got access to everything that they're doing.
Who was it recently that just got their source code dumped as well? I want to think like 5 years back. It was Symantec, I think.
Yes, so Symantec did have it. So I no longer I increase. I'm increasing the realms of possibilities that I can get into. How an exorbitant amount of systems, not through a direct flaw in the operating system, but into systems that are like antivirus that have full administrative access. That's kind of scary to me.
Well, and it just follows a simple business calculation. If you were looking at ROI on your effort as an adversary, so many fuckers have antivirus as opposed to Windows 10 versus Windows 7, right? Right, you get what I'm saying? There's an ROI there, and why not? Why wouldn't you take the least invested route for the maximal output? Of course you would.
Right, sure. I could write malware that goes after the malware vendors. But getting back to our snake oil piece here, so Brandon, you were mentioning that it's decent if for a home use, and you don't have to give it full administrative access to still have some type of value. It's going to protect you against a lot of the low-hanging fruit. Or let's say the low-level or the not-so-sophisticated attacks.
So a lot of things like browser-enabled attacks that you would typically see out in the wild, those it's able to just say, hey, this website's been known for malicious traffic. Let's go ahead and take a step back. And it's not exactly going to go out of its way to stop you if you don't give it administrative privileges, but it will alert you that the steps that you were taking are going to lead you into maybe a bad time on your PC. So
it provides some level. So you're saying it provides some level of coaching to the user?
To a degree, yes. But if you don't install all of its little hooks, then it's essentially worthless because most people are going to ignore and dismiss warnings when it comes to whatever browsing. If they want to look at something, they're going to go to it anyways. They don't give a shit what type of pop-ups come up. Most people aren't that scared. They think, oh, I can just get it fixed.
Got it. So it sounds like to me, if I was looking at this from a scale of 1 vial of snake oil to 5 vials of snake oil, this is probably for Windows. Yeah, I would say 3 vials of snake oil here. It does have some value, but not it. I think in a lot of ways it probably lowers our risk posture rather than increases our risk posture rather than lowers. I think it gives us a false sense of security.
Like I was saying earlier, you got to have that balance of not just security but lack of hindrance when it comes to your productivity. When you go to insert a flash drive and it's got a Word document on it that you created, never intentionally put malware inside of, didn't link to anything with malware, and it formats your drive because of potential threats, that in itself makes the product a problem, and to me adds an additional little vial of snake oil to it.
Well, it's an interesting segue to the broader conversation of AI for the episode that, one of the fundamental failings in the design of security, let's just call them assets because it's not just software, it's appliances and hardware too, is that it forces the users to adopt the security model rather than adapting to the user's behavior and just making sure that behavior is safe. That's a fundamental fucking flaw. And that's why you see, especially in enterprises, users not following policy. Well, why? Because the policy doesn't model user behavior. It's trying to force the users to adapt to its model. And that's not going to work. People just want to get their work done and go home and watch fucking Survivor.
Right. But when it comes to security on computers, the computer is already shipped out the way it is. The software is able to change over time, but it's one set model, one set system of rules. By default, we are automatically accepting that system and using it to our abilities. Now, we can change and modify certain aspects of that system, but it doesn't necessarily adapt to the user. So without any type of ability to analyze usage statistics of how that system is being utilized, you aren't going to get anywhere, especially with security.
Well, yeah, right,
Yeah.
and that's my point, and that more specifically is the point I'm making about how pretty much all of it is snake oil.
This thing doesn't want to stay upright.
What you need is something that can, like you said, learn, and it can learn with you, right?
Yeah,
Well,
very true.
we've got a few possibilities of things that a lot of companies and even theoretical physicists are trying to get involved in, and that's either A, synthetic or artificial intelligence that's able to learn, not necessarily be told. The thing with artificial intelligence is that it's a collection of data that is already preset, whereas synthetic intelligence starts off as a child. It's basically a baby. And just like human, it has to learn. But the other aspect is that of quantum mechanics, which is supposed to look at everything as possibility and yet nothing at the same time. So if we go either one of those ways, we might have a better chance of understanding how we can adapt computers to our specific needs and security, for that matter.
Right. So that actually brings me to a question I wanted to ask you guys. Do you need to go, Death Star, or are you hanging out?
I can hang out for a little bit. This
All
thing's actually applying pressure to my problematic area.
Well, fucking take it off then.
No, it's a
No.
pressure.
He has to keep it on. He has to keep it on. That's the whole reason why he's here.
You realize
So,
you
hey,
you're just feeding into this guy's fucking ego, man. Take it off.
That's what I'm here for, man. That's what I'm here for.
hey, so but we have to just finish up. So Death Star gave 3 vials of snake oil. I gave 3 vials. Ninja, what's your vote there for ESET on Windows? How many vials are we talking about, man?
Man, I'm thinking at least 3.5.
3.5. All right.
Yeah.
So there we got it. So for those watching at home, your car, whatever you're doing, hit us up. This Life in Tech, 5 minutes of snake oil. What do you want to see the Sultan look at next week? Let us know. And so Death Star, whatever you gotta take off, man, to go to the doctor, just bow out, my friend. No, put that shit back on. I didn't give you permission to take that off.
You know what? Here it is.
This is great.
So check
Anyways,
this out. Check this out. This is what I want to ask you guys real quick. So, in Brandon hit it. For an AGI or synthetic intelligence to work properly, and more an AGI, which is what I think most people want as a holy grail, it needs massive amounts of information. Massive. That doesn't fucking. That's incongruent to our concept right now of privacy. It's massively incongruent.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it necessarily needs that. I mean, it's if you take a look as what Death Star was mentioning, a child learning it's getting a vast amounts of information just through all of its senses. Eyes, ears, nose, everything that you're getting is helping to bring all of it into account. The thing that we have at a disadvantage when we're looking at AI in general is that it's not reproducing the entire environment. It's a piece. It's not having to look at balance. It's not having to take all of those things into account in order to get that information. So the vast amounts of information essentially that is being fed is whatever artificially in this case, data that we're providing it to attempt to learn. Like, just because I were to give someone all of my memories doesn't mean it's going to be me.
Why do you say that?
Because they still don't have, just because you can see all the actions I take, you only have a mathematical probability that I might enjoy a particular type of coffee at Starbucks. I mean, hey, every once in a while I throw it up and I'm not just ordering a caramel macchiato, or every once in a while it's going to be something different. And so it's taking into account, it's taking into account the mathematical probability of what I'm going to order. It doesn't take into account what my mood is going to be at that particular time, or what I'm feeling like to have for dinner.
All right, but that's true based off you feeding it limited data. If you gave it unlimited access, why wouldn't it be able to predict that to almost certainty?
Because artificial intelligence doesn't have the ability to just do whatever the fuck it wants.
Well,
That's the
wait.
difference.
Wait. Right now it doesn't. We're talking about an artificial general intelligence, which absolutely would.
I don't think
Maybe.
so. If you go the route of a genuine artificial intelligence that you pull all of this data in and then tell it how to react to the data, that's not the same as a genuine artificial intelligence that you would refer to as synthetic, meaning that it grew up in the same fashion you and I did.
No, right. We're talking about AGI, which learns on its own.
Right, but you can't
Well,
just
train
put
it.
someone else's memories and then go, oh, I know exactly what he's going to be thinking right now. No.
Right, because we start getting into the
past.
aspect of sentience, and sapience in this particular case.
Yes, and an
Right.
AGI is sentient. Just so we're clear, an AGI
Well, it can be, sure. I don't disagree with that, because it would be observed in what's in the living beings. I'm not entirely sure that. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I think we're extremely far away from something like that, but I don't even know that at that point it's going to learn what my memories are, but then it's going to start coming up with it being sentient. At that point, it's going to wind up coming up with its own opinions of whatever it wants and would have diverged for me. I mean, think about it in terms of a parallel universe. At a certain point, it's going to diverge from whatever it was that it was originally taught, because it's going to have its own capabilities to move in a different direction.
Sure, but right, go back to the question. If we had ESET that was an AGI that had full access to you in real time, that's cool.
Although we'd all be fucked because it doesn't properly work. Because I would absolutely in this scenario be OS 10, not Windows.
Well, think about it this way. Most human beings don't properly work. I mean, look how dysfunctional we as a society are. So, in that regard, it would still be just as accurate as a human being.
Wait, what do you mean by that? What do you mean how dysfunctional we are?
Well, as a society, we are fundamentally flawed. We still go to war with each other. We still consume way more than we need. We are not benefiting the world that we live in. We are simply just existing and destroying as much as we possibly can at a very rapid rate.
I think that's an aggressively pessimistic view. I mean, we have robots on another fucking planet. I think we're pretty fucking good.
And what are they doing? They're sitting around observing shit, trying to figure out how the hell that planet works, so we can one day go there and explore, maybe find new resources to consume.
Yeah.
Here's the big challenge that I see that in all of this. I mean, today we don't fully understand or even come close to understanding what our own capabilities are as a species. How can we create something that is supposed to be sentient when we don't quite understand our own yet?
Well, wait, we do it every time we produce offspring.
Yeah, but that's not artificially being done.
How many parents?
Wait, but that exactly, that's my point. Is that why would an AGI be so different than you and I having kids?
Well,
Religion's
we're both
a good
men
example.
for first fake, but
Wait, what'd you say?
What'd you say? We're both men, so that's not going to be able to be capable of it.
No, in the concept that one is not artificial and one is. Why? Creating an AGI is a natural extension of us. It's natural. It's not synthetic.
Right.
I don't know that creating an AGI is natural.
Sure it is. We're creating it.
We may be creating it, but we're trying to recreate, like, for example, consciousness. We still want, I mean, there's differences of opinions of whether or not even consciousness exist, or in that we don't even understand our own consciousness as it exists today.
The thing is,
So depending on which philosophy you want to believe in.
it's a matter of the process. I mean, whether or not you're doing it in a natural way that we've been doing it for hundreds of years, or you do it the manual way, piece by piece, you're still getting a similar result. I mean, it's not the exact same thing that we've been doing, but it's, as far as more morality goes and what's the difference between the two, yeah, one's artificial, the other one's natural. So,
Is the internet natural?
yes. It's an extension of us. It's nothing more than a tool.
Exactly.
We created it.
Exactly.
Sure,
And that's
I can see that, but the internet doesn't. We didn't recreate a consciousness.
But wait, why does consciousness suddenly change the equation? It does. In my opinion, it doesn't. If we agree that the internet
I think it does.
let's back up a second. If we agree that everything we create as right, but by proxy is an extension of us as a species, therefore it's part of the natural world. Why suddenly is AI not?
I mean, I think that we're taking this to the extent of we're creating something that is artificial, right? Even I would still go so far to say it's different than a tool. We're trying to create something in the essence that true AGI would exist. Then it's no longer just a tool, because at that particular point, it could very well claim to have its own rights,
Oh, of course.
and at that point, it's not a tool that we've created.
Right. So wait, so not being a tool renders it not natural? I'm trying to understand your argument.
Well, yeah. So in this case, a tool, the internet's a tool, a computer is a tool. It doesn't have self-awareness. It doesn't have sentience. It doesn't have sapience. It's none of those things exist. In AGI, those exist, and that is
Yes.
complete. AGI is to me vastly different than creating another life. The evolution of that life takes on a completely different meaning.
Interesting. Interesting.
I mean, I'm not saying that one is necessarily. They're just different.
Oh yeah. No. It's not an argument of one being better or worse.
And
It's not that they're not different. It's just I'm curious why people view it as not part of the natural world. Because people seem to make the same argument about technology, that it's not natural.
Because most of us have been told it's an abomination to mess with the things that God has done. So we tend to look at it from a perspective of what's right and what's wrong, and morals and scruples and all that jazz.
Yeah. I mean, I don't look at things in terms of it being, from that moral aspect. I mean, by its very definition, artificial is in there. So being natural is just as to whether or not things are progressing through its own evolutionary path. Artificially is that we have bypassed many of those steps in order to create X. And that's my definition in this case with artificial intelligence. We have bypassed something that would have been a natural progression. Doesn't mean it to be good or bad, just different.
The last thing I'll say is, wouldn't it logically be natural for us to do that, since we're the ones that skip the steps?
I don't know that it. I'm not even necessarily sure that creating artificial intelligence is necessarily a good thing.
Why?
I don't know. I'm not entirely. Like I said, I'm just not entirely sure if it is a good thing.
What if we had ESET that could learn along with us as we learn and not be so strictly either deductive or inductive? Because we agree, right? We agreed in the first episode we started talking about this, that the fundamental flaw in AV specifically as a security technology is that either it follows hard rules, right, which would be deductive. This is this, and so it's true, and I'm going to nuke your fucking disk, right? Or it's heuristic based, which means it's inductive. But it's strictly inductive, and it has a very confined set of boundaries that it has to stay within, which limits it. And that's why, right, you stick a drive in with a file on it, and one piece of that file behaves one certain way that trips that boundary, and, well, you're nuked. Right? So what if you, now, let's not talk about AGI, let's talk about soft, something more like AlphaGo.
Right.
Which, I mean, we're all clear on the fact that it learned. It didn't, those rules weren't programmed into it. It adapted. That's what's so marvelous about it. Right? We all agree there?
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, people could argue that it was able to obtain new information and then categorize it differently, which isn't really learning, it's just new input. But for the most part, it seems like it's learning.
It's different than chess. This just wasn't some mathematical probability throw in calculations where everything is a defined set of rules, like in chess.
Yeah,
there's multiple different ways to win in with this game.
Well, it's a fundamental difference in how it computes, and its computing power. Right? A chess AI looks through a set of hard rules, and it right, it can probabilistically, like you said, calculate this is to this degree of certainty the best move. Go doesn't work that way. As a game, it can't work that way. It's too complex. So I'll say this: in my mind, it absolutely learned. It adapted to the play move by move. It didn't crawl a predefined move set like a chess computer does.
It definitely gave off the impression of learning. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. So just take AlphaGo and put it on our fucking mobile phones, right, so to speak. Is that bad? Is that good? Because remember, the thing it does need is data, and it needs a lot of it.
I think just giving.
Well, go ahead there, Death Star.
I was going to say, just giving it access to the internet in general would be either a very wonderful thing for the process of understanding it, or a very terrible thing for we as a species going to be nuked by this thing in the future. But if you give it access to the world and let it learn on its own in the same capacity that it did from those Go matches, then you have absolutely no idea as to what the outcome is going to be. And that's what is both wonderful and absolutely terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, you have to accept the fact that once you flip the switch, it's on.
Yeah.
There's actually a subfield of AI that deals with what they call the confinement problem. Essentially, what it boils down to is how do you pull the plug, or how do you keep it in its box? And especially once you cross to an AGI, in my opinion, you have to accept the fact that there's no confining it. There's some new research that comes out that came out recently that talks about how long will it take an AGI to realize that it's in a simulation? Because the idea is that one way to confine these things is to stick them in a simulation so that they're software bounded.
6.7.
So that they're software bounded and hardware bounded. And then somebody came along and asked the question, well, how long do you think it's going to take before that thing realizes it's in there, and it tricks you into letting it out? And if you saw Ex Machina, the movie, that's exactly what that movie looks at. Is how long is it going to take that thing to realize that it's trapped and trick you into letting it out in some way? Because clearly it's in its best interest to get out, right?
Well, that's the same thing that happened in that movie with Sid 6.7. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but same thing happened. It was able to get out.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the record, in my opinion, sci-fi demonizes it by always showing AI killing us. I don't think it's.
Of course, that makes for a good story, but I mean, you got to think back to the child analogy, and that is eventually you, the parent, have to introduce your child to the outside world, whether it's to take it to school, doctor, whatever. Once you do that, there's no going back. It now knows there's more than just my playpen. There's an entire fucking world out there of amazing shit I need to explore.
Right.
Yeah, and Jason and I have talked. You and I have talked about this, before, and I think we tend to agree on this point. I don't necessarily think it's these beings would kill us. I think it's a matter of whether or not they would choose to save us from ourselves.
If capable, yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Are you gonna attribute that to me since I said that?
Well, no. I mean, you were the one that brought it up, and we talked about this. Yeah. I don't know how many times ago, and.
And I think asking if AI in any form is going to kill us is the wrong question to ask. I think the question to ask, exactly like you said, is will they actually save us?
I mean, if we take a look at just what's happening in the world today, I mean, North Korea at any moment they're always threatening to drop nukes on everyone. You've got Iran that's actively pursuing a nuclear program. Russia is always the wild card. I mean, they're pulling out of Syria, but they can deploy it within moments at any time. We know they have nukes. At any moment, any one of several countries could decide to put us into that nuclear holocaust. And say that were to start, would these beings choose to save us or let humanity
And to clarify my personal philosophy on that, I don't mean to indicate that they'll view us as unsavory and simply just not act. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that because of the power of computation and the amount of data they'll have access to and how far out they can predict, that we're talking about AGI, that it very well is going to be able to see way farther down the road than us, probability-wise, and it may just be able to rawly calculate that letting us persist doesn't produce a desirable outcome. That's what I mean. Not that they're just going to stand by and let us die. It's that it'll calculate that it's in the best interest of the species to let an individual human perish. Like we have that conversation. Let's not talk about AI. Let's talk about autonomous vehicles because we have that. I mean, the Tesla cars are fully autopiloted now. So what happens when that AI can calculate out the probability of, well, look, something happened and this car is going to crash. And rather than kill the young kids in the car to the right, I'm going to kill you by going to the left. That's great for those kids. It's not great for you.
Sure.
And it's going to happen.
I still don't discount the aspect to where they could let the species die off, because they've also just predicted that based on the current rate and the current things that are happening at that particular time, it's only saving us for 50 years or 50,000 years or whatever. I don't put that behind it or out of it.
That's why Brandon's point about if you're not fine with it doing whatever the fuck it wants, don't turn it on.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. If you're not willing, just like having a kid, right? It's a gamble, dude. We have lots of historical evidence of kids growing up to be serial murderers, in big time, right?
Like, here's the thing: you don't want to be responsible for artificially creating the next, Hitler, Stalin, Genghis Khan, whoever.
Right.
So,
nobody does, but we keep having kids.
Yeah.
The probability of that happening is exceedingly low.
I don't know.
I'm not too sure about the Genghis Khan part. I
terrible.
wouldn't mind having like a Genghis Khan. That would be kind of good.
I don't know about that, man.
Which part? Get his Genghis Khan or the probability being low?
About Genghis Khan,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that dude's DNA is in what over 60 million people now in the world.
Wait, so check this out. This is a fun little trivia fact. The Mongol army killed so many people that it lowered the ambient temperature of the globe. Think about that.
That's fucking impressive.
Now, right?
Touch that. That's amazing.
A much smaller population to start with, right? Then I mean, they weren't at 7 million, but they killed enough motherfuckers to lower the temperature of the Earth.
Think about that. Since the Industrial Revolution, we have been slowly raising the temperature of the planet. It's taken us this long to get to where we are now.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan did the exact opposite of that just by killing people.
Yeah.
That's
He removed
awesome.
carbon. He massively removed carbon footprint on a much bigger scale than, like, for instance, the Black
that
Plague.
just gave me a great idea.
That's exactly what I already go. We don't need a Death Star to come into orbit and start killing off civilizations, or to give any particular dictators the idea that just killing massive amounts of people is going to lower our carbon footprint. That's a good idea.
But it goes back to necessity at this point. What's better for the species, to kill that one person or several thousands others?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not a moral thing, right? It's not a moral thing.
No,
and I think we have to accept the fact that the genie's already out of the box. Like Dan, you were saying this before Death Star joined, about AI coming back from like the 40s and the 50s. People don't realize how long we've had learning algorithms. Every mapping software that pre-computes a route uses a genetic algorithm. And they're using that to solve what's called the traveling salesman problem. It's incredibly difficult to compute the absolute #1 best route between here and there. Right? There's only a probability of this being the best based on various variables.
Based on the factors you have at the time, right?
Yeah,
the last point that I want to kind of talk about when it comes to AI in general is the thing that you had sent over. It's very probable that within the next 5 to 10 years that these that artificial intelligence systems would start performing a lot of the menial tasks that humans do today.
It's very likely within the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, I've seen reports. The way it's classified is kind of funny, but what I sent you said that every job classification that pays less than X per hour, and that X right now is set at $20 per hour. And I think what they're trying to do is measure the type of labor that's being done based on pay rate will be completely automated.
And I think what that could wind up very well doing is that, of course, there's a lot, I hate to say it in this way, but there's a lot of people who are making that less than $20 an hour that any nation would not be able to sustain itself on. I mean, because we're talking about North America, $20 an hour. They wouldn't be able to sustain itself living in a welfare state at that point, and that those people would wind up essentially dying off from poverty. They wouldn't be able to.
It would spark civil war.
Could do that too.
Why? Those are interesting points of view, because I think the opposite. I think that enables those people to do what they really want, and I don't think, based on the people that I've met or the areas I've lived in, where minimum wage is norm, really want to be doing that. They just don't have options. They're not aware of what exists. So if I brought in a machine to do your job and you had a guaranteed minimum income so you could still at least eat, right? I'm not talking about wealth. I'm talking about minimum income. Now you can go find things. Why is that not desirable for us?
If it actually happened that way. Yeah. If it happened the way you're talking about, I think just based on my own observation, I believe that people have lost their will to fight for better.
A lot of people don't want to strive to become better than they currently are. Most people are content with just being able to survive. So long as either they're on welfare or they have enough income to sustain their current course of living conditions, why fuck with what's not broken? Don't mess with it. Just leave it as is. Move on with life.
Poverty is probably the worst cycle that anyone could be put into, because it perpetuates itself. That's why they're always saying, in some way, shape, or form, in those poor environments, that basketball is going to get them out. Their way out tends to be through sports, not through education, and that tends to be because the parents have not made a conscious choice to want better for their child.
Yeah. Based on the science, man, the two top predictors of future success are education and money.
Yep. And this this probably became quite evident to me when I was taking a sociology class in my undergrad. The professor was an African American, and was part of the stereotype, as he had mentioned, of, hey, he's like, look, I never knew my father, but my mom made damn sure that me and my brother were in the library after work every day, because she knew the way we were going to get out was through education. That is the most highly probable success factor, is education, and that it's freely available. Even a public library in Baltimore City has enough wisdom in written word to be able to help them to get out. And his mother knew that, and he had said if more parents had taken that approach, that's the quickest way to end the cycle of poverty. And I tend to agree with that.
So this happened in our lifetime. I think we're all close in the same age. I know Dan and I are. Brandon, I don't think you're far off from us.
I'm 26.
Yeah, you're not far off from us. So in our lifetime, man, in the 80s, the auto industry was automated, right? Remember the big problem and battle with the Japanese coming in and automating the manufacturing of automotive parts and automobiles. What happened to all those people? They didn't die off. Where'd they go? They went somewhere.
They had to find work that was either equal to or lesser than what they were used to.
And they clearly did, right? I mean, we agree.
Not all of them. A lot of them ended up hurting really bad over that.
Don't know. I mean, if we take a look at what the city of
Detroit
Detroit looks like right now, I don't know what I never studied it, so I couldn't tell you where they wind up going, but they probably do not live in the Detroit area anymore.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
maybe they went to something else.
Look at the raw population.
But we said
look at the population number.
Yeah, but we were talking about items, basically jobs under $20 an hour, which essentially means, to me, unskilled labor. I would classify, like electricians being very skilled, and they're not $20 an hour, even though it's considered blue collar. They're not going anywhere. It's those things that are unskilled labor. So the person taking your order at McDonald's.
Yeah, that's actually
that could be replaced with a kiosk.
Right,
yeah.
And this is the part where I tend to disagree with some of the political politicians out there. They're talking about how if you work at McDonald's, you should be able to support your family. It was never meant for that.
No.
That was meant for that high school, college kid to have money while they are getting their education, not to be a career cashier at McDonald's.
Yeah, right. So that's actually a great example, right? At least a quick service restaurant, so you're talking McDonald's, whatever, right? It's completely automatable, and it's automatable right now. That's not 5 years away. You could do that right now if you wanted. But, right, just to be clear, the market research says that people won't come in because right? Same reason why people don't like automated tellers or automated phone recordings, right? Because they want to talk to that human. We have that hang up as creatures.
Well, they're doing it in the like the TSA equivalent over in Japan. They tested this out.
Yep. Right. So we're clear. The technology exists right now to automate a fast food joint. So, right. Part of this question is, what do you do with all all of the teenagers, all the college kids here in Southern California. What do you do with all the Mexican immigrants? Because that's who predominantly works there. I didn't say illegals,
Don't know.
motherfuckers. I didn't say illegals.
No.
it's unskilled labor.
Yep, I'm referring to just unskilled labor, and that
Uh-huh.
I don't know, as a society, we have fully grasped the
We're not ready for
amount of people, right, the amount of people that would be put into that unskilled labor pool, and maybe not capable of becoming skilled for whatever reason, because they put themselves in that predicament from being in that poverty life cycle, that they've no longer have that will to move forward. I don't know. Not a sociologist. I don't even play one on Telemundo.
That surprises me. That surprises me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a I mean, I don't know. This interests me too. I don't know why people debate it as if, what if it happens? It's gonna happen. It's already happening.
It's slowly.
Well, I think that's the
taking
problem.
place.
I don't think enough people are debating those aspects to understand how we're going to provide the infrastructure for the influx of unskilled labor that is not capable of getting gainful employment.
Right.
The only way we will ever combat against that is through higher education that's affordable. That's the only way that I can foresee us being able to take these underskilled people and say, hey, this is how you move up the world.
Right.
And I don't even know if that's even possible based on the way in which education systems gain their funding. It's currently the primary mode or method of getting their funding is through property taxes. And so in the Tucson, Arizona cannot compete with New York City.
No, but then
They
again,
can't compete with any city in California.
well, that's the thing. It's a matter of what's popular, what's economical, what's more abundant. For example, the tequila industry out here is a lot more predominant than it would be in New York. So as far as unskilled labor goes, yeah, you might be able to have automated services throughout our quick service food industry and everything else, but we still have other things that need to be tended to by human hands for the time being until automation comes up and catches up with that. But it's the education system out here in Tucson isn't anything like it is over in New York in the more populated areas. It's one of the worst in America.
Sure.
Well, man, I think we all agree that there's some big, what I call species level problems, some society level problems that, I mean, I don't think we're at a point yet of knowing what the answer is, but I think at least we agree for now that it's not a matter of if this happens, it's fucking happening, people.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's start trying to incrementally, 5-10% at a time come up with answers that actually work.
Yep. Well, everyone's worried about the encryption debate right now. This is not too far off from that.
Well, wait. Maybe in the future episode we'll talk about how I think it's a bad idea to encrypt.
That's something I want to hear.
We have kind of talked about that. That's because Jason, the only way in which to get out of the stars is to remove all humility. Basically.
I like my humility. I'm not removing it. I like my privacy. I like a lot of things. That's why I work for Silent Circle.
Well, I mean, anyway, man, we'll get to that then. I don't mean today. I mean many, many years from now. In a distant galaxy, maybe. Anyway.
I will be long dead.
Episode 10.5. God damn it.
10.5 in the bag. This Life in Tech. Hey, remember, hit us up. 5 minutes of snake oil. Sultan of Snake Oil is ready to review your product.
Yeah.
Any platform, any suggestions you have, I'm covered. Let me know. The only thing I can't review is Windows 10.5 or whatever on a Windows smartphone.
Because they don't exist. They're fucking dead.
Yeah.
But no, Android, iOS, Linux, OS 10, Windows, whatever you got, send it my way.
If there's a topic you want us to cover in the general podcast, DM one of us, email one of us. DM's better probably. But until next time, everybody. Bye.